rooms, and this is a
I think
hostile
Louis
environment.
C.K. I'd leave Louis C.K. alone. Enough with that. And again, there are so many issues we got to be motivated on. I think he's been my friend, and I stand by that. He's been my friend since 1985.
Wow.
And I think he has suffered. And when he performs at the Comedy Cellar and people get all irate, if nothing else, care about his daughters. If nothing else, if you can find no compassion for him, which I think you should, think about how his daughters, who hear all of this stuff, feel. Why don't you leave him alone for them if you're so women empowering? And by the way, this isn't your fight. You know what I mean? If it's your fight, then it's your fight. I believe that it's between the people that are dealt, that took issue with him. It isn't for people get so upset, and then I want to know if they write their congressman. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm like, do you get this?
All the women that he flapped his dick on, don't you?
You know what? It isn't all the women, and it's. This is one of those things. We are still talking about this when there are so many other things.
Why should I have sympathy for someone because they have a daughter?
They have two daughters.
Because
you don't understand. Because you don't understand what it is like to be a public pariah. Because it's not happened to you. You don't understand what it's like to have people in the street yell things terribly.
He chose to be a public person, and then he chose to take advantage of that.
Also, I don't think you know the full story about some of the... And nobody talks about on stage in their stand-up more than him, everything he's ever done. Throughout that whole time. I don't want to get caught up in this, because clearly you take a strong position on this, and it doesn't win me any friends. It's like talking about Israel. But I do believe when you're a friend with someone, and if you think that they have... I don't believe in kicking a person when they're down.
I mean, you could still be friends with someone, but you could also still acknowledge what they did.
It's not mutually exclusive. Did I say I didn't acknowledge what they did? I'm just saying. And also, are there no other issues? Are there no? He seems to be
multitask. We can multitask.
But the thing is, why? What is your stake in it that people want to keep going back?
To let people know they can't just rip their dick out in front of people because they can. That is the stake. I think when I walk in a room and you have a bigger position than me, that you don't just get to wag your dick at me because you can.
Okay.
That's the stake.
First of all, that's not what he did. There are, and also you weren't there. I don't think you were not.
No,
this
but
is not your.
Wasn't in the Iraqi war to know that wasn't cool. Like
this is so unfair, because it's another thing where people get bullied. I feel progress is thwarted when anyone says because believe me, the pushback I get when I've discussed this before, when people ask me about it, feels so unjust to me. And that when there are so many issues we could be talking about, and I do think there is a point where somebody stops kicking people when they're down. It doesn't matter what the gender is. It doesn't. This isn't about male or female. I'm talking about anybody. Now, Harvey Weinstein, I think, is in a different category.
Well,
that is a person, a totally different category to me. Somebody who absolutely does that is absolutely. And by the way, he gave me a sweater. That's weird. Every single person that's been brought up in the sex scandal thing has been nothing but nice to me, which is weird. Which I think it's because everybody thinks I'm. I think
that's normal. I think
no.
a lot of predators
that's
are very
another thing.
nice.
People get mad
streets.
when I say that, but almost every person, like the big ones brought up, I'm like, oh, he gave me a sweater. But I think it's because most people find me sexually unappealing. Which I don't even know if it's about that, or they don't feel the need to.
Do people get
that.
gifts for being sexually
No. It was before Copland, a movie called Copland. I was in a movie called Copland, and I was at the time I was hosting the MTV Awards, and Harvey Weinstein came backstage and gave me a sweater and said, "Welcome to Copland." I'd gotten the part.
What kind of sweater was it?
It was a pink cashmere sweater.
Ooh.
And it's just because I think also everybody always just thinks I'm, and this is not a criticism. Everybody always thinks I'm gay, which is fine with me. I'm not, but it's not. I don't take it as a criticism. It's fine. And most people are under that impression. He might have been too. I don't know. Now I'm not. Again, this is ridiculous that we're talking about this. There'll be nothing but vitriol coming at me about this, and it's so easy to get mad at these things and then lose sight of other things that impact our lives. Still, like reproductive rights being repealed,
I think
and
we can
all
do
kinds
it
of
all
stuff.
at the same.
We
damn
can,
time.
but have we not done it enough with that one person?
Well, I think that he maybe should have leaned back on ambushing people with his. Let people buy tickets if they want to support him.
But I think that you are misunderstanding exactly what happened. You're going on what you've been told in the main about what happened.
Yeah, I
he
don't
is
know
not
him.
a person who goes into any
we
room
don't have
and in a powerful way whip his dick. He's not.
I'm sure that's not. I mean, I'm sure there's semantics to everything, but what he did was not okay, and he should.
And he has paid heavily, and his family has paid.
I think there's
heavily.
a way to regenerate your career that is much more delicate to the situation than just being like, "Hey, I'm going to go do a stand-up show."
You have no idea. Now you're again. You are now again. Why can he not do a stand-up show?
Well, announce it
why
so
do you
people
have
have a choice to support
Oh
or
my
not.
God! Do you know how much offensive material goes on at the Comedy Cellar?
Yes,
And
but
you know what? If you don't want to listen to him, get up and leave the room. You are acting like Mussolini has walked into the room, and it is not. This is a human being, and I'm not mad at you. Listen, there's no reason for us to get upset about this, but that you're getting mad that he goes to the Comedy Cellar.
No, I just think there's ways to do it that are much more sensitive to the situation.
Sensitive to what situation?
People may not wanting to support him right now.
Yes, and
give them
believe
an
me,
option.
they make themselves very clear. They make themselves very clear. And the type of material that you hear on a nightly basis at the Comedy Cellar makes him look tame. And they're not offended by that. Yes, it is, isn't it?
It's not the material that it's giving. It's what he did. It's his personal actions, not his material. I do not find comedy that talks about a lot of shit ever offensive. I do find personal behavior offensive. It's a huge difference.
Okay.
I think that we have found another place where you guys can agree to disagree. And I think that I'm going to ask you something more about you and not about people that you know.
But I feel like the amount of vitriol that's going to come back at me at this is going to be painful. But I feel like if your stomach hurts when you're going to talk about something, I think then you know that you have to talk about it. Because before we got into this, my stomach started turning over. And I was like, I don't want to allow someone to get bashed that I think is paid, and it's also no longer something we should be talking about.
Honesty
the
is
movement,
your personal
yes,
brand.
not that personal.
And you have the right to your
he
opinion,
is
I
my
would like
friend.
to
But
say.
I think I would feel that way with or without that. That person doesn't need to be my friend for me to feel that they've been publicly flogged and
I see
had a lot of pain. And again, I don't feel that way about Harvey Weinstein. I don't feel like you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
The punishment fitting the crime, and political criminals, and like I said, Sean Hannity, stuff like that. I don't forgive that. But anyway, what was the question?
Tell me about your life and what it looks like